I was working on my project and made this cool effect. I thought I would make a video about it. Let's not waste any time and create a new project. Like all the good things, it starts with a fusion composition. I have it in my favorites. For you, it's going to be in effects, and you can search it in the toolbox. Now we're going to go here, and well, there's absolutely nothing here, which is good. Now what we're gonna do is set up our environment. First, let's take our merge 3D node and connect it to a renderer 3D. I tried to connect it to media out. It doesn't work. Renderer 3D, which renders our 3D scene, and connect it to media out. Now we can visualize our merge here, and I like to see my renderer to the side. So as you can see, what you can see on renderer is exactly what you will see when you, and because there's nothing, you can see, well, nothing. Here we are going to enable lighting and shadows. This is very important. I sometimes forget that, and then I just don't see lighting or anything there. So keep in mind, this should be always on in your renderer. Now, well, obviously we start with a cube connected to our merge. This is a plane, of course. We're going to go in shape and cube. Another pro tip on setting up the environment is I also use another merge, which is going to be for the lights. So basically all the shapes and textures are going to be connected to this merge node, and all of the lights and camera are going to be connected to this merge node. So as you can see, this is white and here's black because there's no lighting there, obviously. We can turn on like basic shading here. This is also like very similar to Blender if you've ever used it, and we are going to use Blender in this video. So we have this cube, but we need a wall, right? And actually for that we can go back to plane, and actually it's better to be white. So now we're gonna get a texture, and you can get textures by pictures. So this is an image, and I want this exact brick wall, and it has watermark here. By using PowerPoint or anything really, I just use PowerPoint because I don't know, used to it. I was very broke when I was editing, so I didn't have Photoshop. So you can grab it like that, put it right here. And what we can do now is actually crop the image right on top of the watermark, and then just slap it back in. So that's our image. That's gonna be our wall. We're gonna go back here, and in our media pool, we are gonna search for that wall we just downloaded. Here's our wall, and we can put it here. Now, to create a texture, we need a couple of nodes here. First, let's get our brightness node, in which we will connect our wall node to, and then we need bump map. This is what's gonna give us that wall texture, you know, not a flat image. And now we can use our blend node to connect both of these nodes here, and we can plug it into shape. And well, nothing happens. Inputs are different if you never used Fusion. And this is diffuse color material, which we need to set to brightness. And here is bump map material, and we can connect that to here. So now we can see our wall. Now you can see nothing happens, even if I scale the bumpiness of the wall. And that is because lighting fakes all the bumpiness and textures. So we can set this to default, and we can go to the Litten version of this, which is now dark, but if then we move this around, you can see that it's changing, right? It has all of these quote-unquote 3D textures. For now, let's add a simple spotlight, and as you remember, we're going to connect it to the second merge node, which has all the lighting. We're going to move it a little bit to the back. As you can see, the light doesn't show up here. And that's because we're visualizing the node without the light. And that is something that you need to keep in mind if you're using the same toon merge node setup as I am. So make sure to set that. Go into the spotlights part and lower the intensity so you can better see the texture. Now, this is sort of reflective, and I don't want reflections. And we can go to Plane, Specular, and lower exponent, which gives us that matte feeling. It's not reflecting anything because it's a wall. But you can have like a little bit of that reflection. Maybe if it's a fresh painted wall or something, it will have that reflection. And it's generally better to have some of that. Now we're going to go to Blend and we are going to set our height scale. And this is very sensitive, so you might want to use just a slight bit of it. I think I'm liking what I'm seeing here. Okay, this wall looks, well, good enough. Now we can also do that to like see the full thing. And you can also check in render here how it looks. And now as you can see, there's something wrong with this. And that something wrong is this area right here. I don't like that. I don't want that because, and now if I want to move this shape and stack the wall, as you can see here, there's something wrong. So we're going to use a crop. Obviously we cannot just connect this straight from the blend because this crop is for, well, 2D stuff and we're working in 3D, but we can connect our media to the crop and then connect our crop to all those brightness and stuff. And we can adjust that very simply. So we can visualize our crop here and we want the edges to be, well, on the edges of the crop. So now our image has no dead spaces around it, which is great. So we can go visualize our light here and render it there. So now if we stack those nodes, everything is going to go as expected. What's cool with this setup is all of these nodes have texture information. You can put it on any sort of shape that you want and don't have to copy and paste it for every single one. And if we put it in the merge node now, we can move it and you can see that there is no artifacting and that weird thing. You can even see the seam. For now, get rid of that shape and continue our journey. Now, what we need is a frame. And yes, we can make the frame in DaVinci Resolve just by grabbing this 3D shapes and then modeling it. But, well, it's not a 3D modeling software. And when we can use something else, we might as well do it. And we're going to open Blender for this. And I promise this is not going to be some advanced stuff. We're just going to transform this cube. This cube is 2 by 2. We might want to scale it down a little bit. 2 by 2, I mean meters. So 2 meters by 2 meters. What I did there was press S and then scale it down. So by pressing S and dimensions, we can scale on that specific dimension. So that's something very cool. So by pressing S and then Y, we can smoosh it together. So that's going to be our frame. By pressing scale and X, we can slightly make it look like more of a frame. I don't like the height of this thing, so I'm just going to do that. And now, as you can see, it is, well, a slab. Now we're going to press tab, go into the edits tab. We are going to select the face. I don't remember how to select the entire face, so I'm going to control click on those. I'm going to press I and scale it a little bit down to give us that bezel. Then I'm going to press E and extrude it inwards. You don't want to extrude it too far because it's going to continue just within the bezel, you know, just to give that depth. So back's looking great and the front is looking, well, fabulous. And this is going to be our frame. Nothing fancy, no materials, no textures in Blender, just a simple shape. Now we're going to go to File, Export, and export is OBJ. Now I'm going to export it on my desktop, right? There is a frame, the previous one that I did, so I'm going to name it frame 2, just like that, and export it. That's it with the Blender. Now we're going to go back here. And now to import our model, we're going to go FBX Mesh 3D. And it's going to ask to choose our OBJ file. We are going to choose frame 2 because that's what we created. And now this node is basically, and quite literally, that frame shape. We're going to connect it to our merge node. I was about to connect it to shape 3D. We're going to connect it to our merge node and, well, I actually nailed the sizes even though I eyeballed it. It's, well, flat, and that is because it's in its rotation, right? Here you can see it's a 3D shape. So let's actually rotate it to, let's do 180. So it's gonna be flat. But you can see it's very, very gray, which is not good. we need a texture on it. And we are going to do a exact same thing as we did for our wall. And we're gonna go here on the same web page. And I already searched up the wood grain. So this is the wood grain I wanna use. So as I did for the wall texture, I am going to just yoink it from the side, put it in my PowerPoint slide. I never said it was a high quality video, by the way. So now what we are gonna do is cut the watermark just like that, copy paste, boom. Now we have a complete image. Seam is not even that visible, which is good. The wood part. Now we are going to save it as just wood. I already have it from the previous scene, so I'm just gonna say yes to replace. And now here we can open our media pool, get our wood texture from here. Well, this is with the watermark. We don't need one of that. And boom. And from now we can just, well, copy and paste our setup for the previous material, because it really just needs a change of media in, and then the whole texture changes. And we have our mesh here, and if we connect it, boom, we have a perfectly good frame. Now, one thing is, if we can render our render in 3D, that it's very to the side, and there is no way this little square is filling up the entire screen without like zooming in like that. And to get rid of that, we are going to do a very cool thing, which is very simple as well. We're gonna duplicate our wall. We're gonna use the same Boolean output in here. You can use it on as many nodes as you'd like. Connect it back to the merge node, and that's gonna give us a new wall. Would you look at that? If you can actually like move the spotlight so it illuminates a little bit better, we can scale this. And as you can see, there's some flickering going on, which is Z fighting. And we're gonna get rid of that Z fighting by offsetting it just a tad bit. If you go to transform, you can see the Z axis that moves it through depth, and it's on 0. Well, that's good. And if we say like to 0, 0, 1, that's gonna offset it slightly. You're not even gonna be able to see it even from that close, but it's gonna get rid of that Z fighting completely. We can move our frame in the middle. And now in the renderer 3D, there's some random things going on. Yes, we can select all of these, maybe like move it around, like, but obviously that's not gonna work. And for that, we're gonna use a camera. And this camera is basically our eyes. We can render and visualize the scene from 3D space from any angle we'd like. We're going to connect it to our lighting camera node, and everything disappears. Well, because camera is, well, seeing backside, which is nothing. First things first, before we move the camera around, do not forget to actually move to the camera view, because this renderer is actually rendering, well, whatever it likes. And by not setting this, you're gonna see the same default thing that we just saw. So make sure your camera of choice is selected. We can move our camera and start seeing stuff just like that. We can move it here a little bit forward, and boom, our scene is absolutely filled. Our frame is filled and our camera is set. Now we need that top-down lighting, and we're going to use this same spotlight that we were using to, well, visualize while building. We're going to make it a little bit closer. We're going to go to its settings and set its rotation to, well, 90 degrees, a little bit upwards, and boom. As you can see, it's really faint at the moment, because if you remember, we actually tinkered around with intensity, but still it's not that good. And you can, well, play around with intensity and make it intense, but it's not gonna work. And a little trick that I use, I mean, it's not really a trick, it's a very straightforward something. Just offset it on the x-axis, it's gonna light up it much better. When we position the spotlight, everything else is dark. Ambient lighting is basically sun. It just illuminates everything, every object, every texture evenly, which we need to see these dark edges. And by adding that, boom, it's all lit. And you can leave it like that. Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but I would like it a little bit darker. And that's it. Our scene is done. Only thing left is now flickering, and that cannot be any easier to do. It's just keyframes and keyframes and keyframes. We can go in Spotlight and make sure you are in the start of the timeline. We can keyframe the intensity. This is going to be a starting point, which is going to be 0. And then in like 4 keyframes, I want it completely on. In another 3, I want it off. Then in a couple of frames, I need it slightly on. Then a little bit further, then slightly off, almost off, just like that. In a couple of keyframes, I want it completely on. Then a slight flicker, and boom, that's it. In a couple of seconds, we can have that flickering. And now, when you make this flickering animation and there's like one frame you don't like, you don't have to completely scrap the idea. You can go to Spline Editor, select your animated or keyframed object, which is Spotlight now. We can make it a little bit larger. We can press this button, which fills the screen with the keyframes that we want. And we can select all of this, or press Ctrl A, that's easier. And by using this tool over here, we can actually space them in time evenly. So maybe I want this to take a bit longer to flicker. I can do that. Maybe I want it to take less time to flicker, like really, really fast, right? Just like that. You can do that. And you can also, by selecting all of them, you make sure to exit from this mode, press Ctrl A, you can make the curves, you know, like a slight fade in, fade out. It's not going to be that much visible because it's happening so fast, but it's going to add that just slight tad bit of coolness to it. You can exit out of Spline Editor, and it is absolutely done. And we did this in a single Fusion composition. As you can see, our timeline is very clean, but our Fusion is messy. And this might look overwhelming now if you've never used Fusion before, but once you get the hang of it, and it is really, really easy, then Fusion composition is going to be only thing you want to use for effects and all sorts of different things. My timeline is usually stacks and stacks of Fusion compositions instead of anything on timeline. Anyways, now we need a simple sound effect, right? We can go to my downloads. I've already downloaded the sound, but it's as easy as going on YouTube, finding a broken light bulb sound effect, going to a random MP3 downloader and downloading it that way. It's just as simple as that. We're gonna put it here, cut the dead spaces just like that, and then delete them. Boom. And that's it. It doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see, I just slapped on the sound effect and it works perfectly fine. I didn't sync it with the visuals, if you might, but it's not a big deal. You can just do it really, really simply, just like that. And it's perfect. One thing you can do is make the frame more extruded inwards, because it's gonna give a better effect. You're gonna have more shadows on here, which are going to emphasize that this is a 3D. Other than that, this is the whole deal.